Greetings, friends! My name is Charles Q. Banks, and I'd like to welcome you to the first video in my three-part series on Godzilla. And today I shall be reviewing Godzilla 1998. Yes, this one. This one's a doozy. The reason why I wanted to review this one, and yes, I do have it in the VHS package, and it's still got the plastic on it and everything. I'm pretty proud of that myself. But the reason why I am reviewing this today is because I have lots of thoughts on the successive two Western Godzillas that have been made. The Gareth Edwards 2014 Godzilla and the 2016 Shin Godzilla. And I am very excited to bring this to you because this was one of my favorites as a child. And it's gotten a lot of critical review. A lot of negative review over the years. Just incredible amounts of flack being thrown in this general direction. And I understand why, but me and my family see this as a classic. It's a comedy classic, but a classic nonetheless. I had seen other Godzillas in the past from Toho, Japanese ones on television that were like, I think I saw Godzilla and Mothra fighting just in the middle of a TV movie that I happened to stumble across while flipping through the channels back when you could flip through the channels on the television. And it was, this was definitely much better in certain ways, very specific ways, than those movies. And I happen to love this movie. It's Godzilla, of course, but brought into the 20th century and 21st century. It's a millennial movie made by the same people who made Independence Day. That's actually on the top of this, from the same creators of Independence Day. And that is definitely something that lends itself credence, like, oh wow, Independence Day was pretty good. But people forget that the creators of Independence Day actually also made Stargate, and Stargate wasn't that good. It has a cult following, but it's not that great. And this actually did receive big positive critical response from just your average Joe way back in the day, and Universal made tons and tons of money off of it. All that studios really care about are box office tickets rather than the ratings of the critics, especially in those first few months that it's out in theaters. And it played on TV almost every single year, and so my parents and I would watch it every single year till we basically got sick of it. It took 5 or 6 years, but I've seen this probably a dozen times because it was just so much fun. We recorded it on VHS originally, but that was a really bad recording. But I watched that like half a dozen times anyway, and then we bought this, and I watched it half a dozen times more. I probably watched it more than that, but my point is, this has really bad critical review. It's gotten worse as time has gone on. And I don't really understand why. I mean, I actually do understand why, but I just don't have the same priorities as those critics. Because, yes, this is a Godzilla movie, but not in the way that Godzilla has ever been Godzilla. I mean, look at this. This is the Godzilla of this movie. He's just a lizard. He's just a stinking lizard with some spikes on his back. I mean, you know, Americans would say, that's all he ever was. But no, the original Godzilla was literally a man in a giant, massive-thighed, thick, you know, costume that looked more like a monster than a dinosaur. And the critics usually say, this is just Jurassic Park with one really big monster. But I would even add to that, it's Jurassic Park with the most goofy talent in it. The most goofy characters you could ever imagine playing this type of serious movie. And I think the creators of this movie actually took Godzilla from Toho because they thought that it was all a joke anyway. I think that the Japanese movies and even the American movies back in the old days, black and white days, were seen by them as just really bad movies that everyone knew were bad and no one really liked. Everyone who liked them only liked them ironically because they're comedies. It's silly. It's fun. You watch a monster punch another monster, and that's silly and ridiculous. But they failed to realize how much of an opportunity they had in making this movie serious. They could make this movie serious and pull it off. Like, you know, King Kong, with Peter Jackson's King Kong, that was amazing because they made it super serious. They didn't make another horrible adaptation of King Kong. They tried to make a new King Kong that was truly entertaining, a piece of art, had a lot going for it, a big budget, and they made it a seriously successful film. With this, it's like, this is a sitcom. This is literally a sitcom with some really intense action sequences. And we didn't, I wasn't really a big fan of Godzilla originally, so I didn't have any expectations. All I saw were those trailers of the wave moving in on Manhattan, and these two hobo fishermen sitting there going, "Oh, I got a big one." And he starts reeling in Godzilla, and this massive wave just crushes the dock and destroys the buildings that are just there, and you think, those fishermen are probably dead. They're probably dead. And so what you expected from those trailers was a very serious, big budget, gigantic monster movie that was going to be more violent and more intense. And what you got was a bloody sitcom. Matthew Broderick is the main character. Are you serious? And no, they weren't. I love Matthew Broderick in this role because he is the most spineless, ridiculous character. And Jean Reno, who is an extremely well-respected Frenchman, just in his own right, but a French actor as well, is in this movie, and he does an amazing job too, but only as amazing a job as you can do in a corny action flick like this. I mean, let me just read you the Los Angeles Times summary of this movie on the back of this VHS here. Godzilla is back, bigger and much better than ever. Its size defies comprehension. An expertly designed theme park ride of a movie that packs non-stop thrills. One jaw-dropping scene after another. The film never loses either momentum or its human scale. Okay, so I've got to give it to them. They got that right. All of this is true. Godzilla is back. He's bigger and much better than ever. Okay, that's not actually true at all. The old Godzilla was skyscraper tall. This Godzilla can barely reach the top of the Sears Tower. And there are so many other buildings that soar above him. He gets lost in the city. Like, people can't find him because he's actually weaving in and out of the skyscrapers. He went through a skyscraper, and there's just a hole in the middle. And you're thinking, why isn't he bigger? Because, again, in the old ones, it was just almost comically large. He's facing these other monsters, and they're just kind of tipping over skyscrapers from just brushing it with his claw, and now he's just about, maybe 50 feet tall at most. He's like a small, I don't know, he's kind of a large T-Rex, I guess, and that's exactly what you feel like. You feel like you're watching Jurassic Park again, and I loved Jurassic Park, and that's definitely, if you love Jurassic Park, then you would get a lot of entertainment out of, and enjoyment value out of this, but it's a fun movie. It's not meant to be the most serious movie ever. This is the first Western attempt at making a big-budget Godzilla movie, that in the 21st century, of course, in the modern sense. And it has all of the cliches, action movie cliches, and romantic comedy cliches that you would expect out of their respective genres, But that's why people don't get this film, is because it's way too many genres, way too many weird characters from completely disparate genres and places in television and movie history coming all together to make this crazy movie, and it's just entertainment. You won't get any philosophical commentary, no political commentary that makes is worth anything. And you don't really need it in this film. I again, it's really fun to just watch these characters do what they do, and it's funny, it's hilarious. For both the jokes that are actually in the movie on purpose and the parts of it that weren't supposed to be funny. And it is it seems a little long sometimes. There are some scenes that go on for just too long. There are action scenes where you're getting chased by Godzilla and it's like, oh, can we hurry it up? But the reason for why it's so boring sometimes is because these characters are just making a joke out of everything. Like, the parts where it just shows Godzilla messing things up and breaking stuff and going wild are amazing, for its day, especially because the 3D doesn't. I mean, the effects don't always hold up to today's standards, obviously, because it was 1998. But they do their job well. You get the sense of scale all the time. There's an amazing shot where the rogue photographer here, this guy, is going through the streets underneath the feet of Godzilla, and he doesn't even realize he's under his feet until somebody next to him gets crushed. And it's just an amazing moment where you're looking through the camera like it's found footage or something, and you just see the grainy footage of this massive shadow coming over him and almost getting stomped. And it's like, oh, that sent chills down my spine. And there are other moments of genius too, where like Matthew Broderick is standing there and they don't know where Godzilla is. That happens a lot in this movie for some reason. He jumps back into the Thames, or not the Thames, into the ocean, and outside of New York, and they're looking for him, and Matthew Broderick is trying to lure him out with fish, and he says, "That's a lot of fish," and it's that's hilarious and that's genius, but that's not what I was talking about. It's when he starts to hear the sounds in the sewer system of Godzilla coming up, not from the sea, but from the sewers. And he turns around to look at the fish, and it zooms in on him, and it zooms out from the background. And it's this amazing effect that was used in Lord of the Rings with the ring wraiths, and with Bilbo Baggins, when he's on the road, and they hear the scream, and it just does that same effect, and that effect is amazing in both of these movies, and you don't see that effect very often, and it just sends chills down your spine. And those moments and the action all throughout this movie make it worth the watch. It's not amazing by any account. It's not like a film that artists can say like, just, oh, it's the best. Oh, it's so excelente. But you can't say that about this movie. But there are moments in it that make it worthwhile, like all the way through. And I'd say I'm entertained by it all the way through. I've seen it one too many times, but I have lots of nostalgia for this, and I still love it today. And I give this film a 7 out of 10. It fulfills everything that I want out of a fun action romp. And I think that's all anyone should want out of a Godzilla movie, really. Because if the only thing I can say against this movie that is really bad is the fact that Godzilla is in it so seldom. It focuses on these goofy characters way too much. And it's, again, the sitcominess is funny, but if they could get back to Godzilla, because the moments where he is doing things are just really cool. But it's not a serious movie. If they made it a serious movie with this kind of a budget, it would have done much better, especially today. Yeah, it's a 7. It's good. It's just good. It's not above, like, the biggest average of good movies, but it's really good. I recommend it to action junkies and even comedy buffs. So, thanks for watching. The next movie I'm going to do is the 2014 version, and we'll have quite a lot to say about the contrast between these two movies. So, thanks for watching. God bless. See you in the next one.